Welcome to LaunchPod, a podcast made by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. At Next, we're on a mission to build a more ambitious, prosperous, and competitive Canada, to shine a light on all of the bold entrepreneurs working to advance our ecosystem. So join us as we talk to those on the front lines as they share their stories of grit, determination, failure, and success. In this episode, two Next 36 alumni sit down to talk entrepreneur to entrepreneur. Co-founder of Posh and our own alumni success officer here at Next, Visha sits down with the founder and CEO of GridCure, Tagg Jefferson, to talk about building a business around a meaningful mission, using tech for good and Tagg's more personal moonshots.
Hi everyone, my name is Visha Vijayanand. I'm the Alumni Success Officer for Next Canada. I have here with me Tagg Jefferson from GridCure. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Absolutely.
So we'll just jump right in. Can you tell us a little bit about GridCure and what you guys work on?
Sure. So we came out of Next 36 and are still going, which is always awesome.
That's fantastic.
Think of us like an app store for your utility. We work with electrical utilities, so somebody like Toronto Hydro, BC Hydro, American Electric Power, companies like this. And we help them basically figure out where their equipment's going to explode. Explode. So think of us, again, like an app store, and some of the apps are things like our transformer predictive health module that's telling them where these $4 to $45 million pieces of equipment need to be inspected, repaired, or replaced next, where their cables should be replaced next year. Some of the cooler things that we look at are applications even around electric mobility. So, hey, if I'm Toronto Hydro and everybody's buying an electric car, where can I put a charging station safely that's not going to stress out that part of the network? Yeah.
That's fantastic. Actually, so growing up, I grew up in Los Angeles and my mom was a director of Southern California Edison.
Okay.
So she was actually involved with a lot of what you do.
And we speak the same acronyms.
Exactly.
This is great.
So I grew up around transformers and like my mom telling me about different like overloads in different parts of the network and everything. So the fact that your business basically optimizes this for a utility is amazing, because a lot of the times utilities don't have that kind of ability to do that analytical driven problem solving within the organization. So that's awesome. How did you figure out this was a problem that you wanted to solve? Is this something that you were already working on outside of Next?
In a sense, it was one of those classic find a problem in an industry you're in, get frustrated, try to fix it sort of stories. Nice. So prior to Next 36, I had been building $20 smart meters in India for a while.
Where in India? I'm curious.
I was in Bangalore.
Oh, interesting.
Which is an amazing city.
Very entrepreneurial.
Very entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
Our office was 40 feet from a giant Wipro campus that was coming up, and the Microsoft campus was half an hour north, and,
nice.
And it was incredible. Until I realized, yes, we were on the cutting edge of pay-as-you-go power. This was the early days of mobile payments. So on your old Nokia brick phone, you could text rupees to your smart meter.
Yeah.
So that was all amazing until I realized I was making about $500 USD a month, which is great for Bangalore, but a little tricky to retire on long term. So I came back to Canada, was with BC Hydro for a while on the West Coast, and basically got sort of frustrated by some of the projects we were doing there and how we were approaching them. That it wound up being this crazy multi-vendor environment where we had 14 or 15 different software vendors all in there contributing a small piece to this bigger project, when this problem we were solving was not particularly unique to us as a utility.
Right.
That if that had metaphorically been a CD that I could have gone down to the store to buy, another dozen utilities would also buy that same CD.
Right.
And that was kind of the kernel of what is now GridCure, that there's a large set, but a defined set of problems that utilities have.
So what was that tipping point when you realized that this was actually a scalable solution? It wasn't just something that you were building for one vendor.
That was a really good point. So just to be clear, I'm not building exactly the same thing as we were at BC Hydro. That'd get me sort of in trouble.
Okay.
But it's that class of problems that we were seeing, and honestly, it was kind of coming into Next 36 and being able to sort of finally have a chance to say, hey, I've got this idea about this industry. Is it okay if we go talk to a bunch of other utilities to see if they'd actually buy it? And That's why we wound up doing very well in the programs. We took basically a half-finished PowerPoint deck and a bunch of business cards down to a very large utility conference. And by, I don't know, having nice business cards, being cute, having a compelling story, something, we got our first pilot before the program even started.
Before it started?
Yeah. So,
that's amazing.
So we walked into kind of the first demo day when everybody arrived in Toronto.
Yeah.
Saying, we got a pilot, guys, with our half-built thing. So that was amazing. So we were able to basically use the time here in Toronto in person to kind of continue to finish building it out. And we were flying back and forth to visit this client all the time, and it was awesome.
So how does that look since you started this from a pilot, from a half-finished PowerPoint to now having a full team and like actually building out a business? What has this journey been like for you?
Obviously learning new stuff every day, kind of a cop-out thing, but it is very true. It's easy to kind of approach problems like this with a bit too much ego, if that makes any sense.
Right.
Making sure that we're very humble, really listening to the people inside the utility, being subject matter experts is really important. That guides a lot of the product decisions we make. But as a couple of fun factoids, what the cool things in the journey, I've met the King of Jordan.
That's amazing.
We were deployed on the northern third of Jordan for a while. We've done projects in Lithuania, Portugal. We're going to be starting something probably in Hong Kong.
How are these projects different from the ones that you work on in North America?
Same.
They're same.
So always, and again, it's kind of this class of problems that utilities have around, hey, we have tons of data from smart meters and Nest thermostats and all these other communicating things on our network. Can we use this somehow? The class of problems that we can solve there is really broadly applicable.
What are some of the cool insights that you've found with all of this data?
Yeah, so a lot of it is, hey, which things are going to explode on my network next? So it's kind of boring to a non-utility person, but one of my favorite case studies is when we were able to show a client that if they had installed our software last year, they would have prevented 5 major outages on their network that impacted tens of thousands of people. And that's kind of a cool thing to be able to say as part of a pilot project. This is the value add.
So this is where I'm seeing the kind of like human element where it's not just you're building technology. People are directly affected by this. And I know part of the mission of your business and being in this industry is to make this tech for the betterment of other individuals. Can you just talk a little bit about how you build the mission of your business and how that has a positive impact on the environment? Yeah,
great question. So I've always operated on the thesis of where's the place where you've got the most leverage to make change? And so if we can help somebody like American Electric Power be 0.25% more efficient in their operations, or 0.25% more effective in their operations, that's like taking tens of thousands of cars off the road.
Okay.
Or millions and millions of high efficiency light bulb swap outs that affecting that single organization because it is connected to so many things and it's just such a huge creature that's using so much power that's way easier than calling 10,000 people and asking them not to drive today.
So sorry, if I'm understanding this correctly, a way to tackle climate change is to just make existing processes more efficient rather than having to introduce new things?
Great example. Some of our clients use our work to figure out how much power you or me is going to use next week or next month or next year.
Okay.
All power lines are slightly overcharged because you don't want too many people to turn on the lights at the same time and then there not be enough power in the network and so people have brownouts. So the power companies always pump a little bit too much power into the grid, and it's on purpose. If we can give them better accuracy with how much power they need to pump into the grid at any given time, that lets them lower that overcharge. Because that overcharge, when it's not completely used, just burns off as heat. It's literally just wasted off the wires into the air as heat.
Wow,
so if we can help them be more effective,
okay.
That's significant percentages of the total generation that is coal or, in a lot of cases, natural gas at this point.
Right. Did you go into this business knowing that you would have this impact? Or is this something you kind of learned over time?
It kind of came into it knowing that's what attracted me to infrastructure type companies from the get-go is, they're old, they're crunchy, they're not particularly sexy as an industry from a lot of folks' perspective, but
crunchy is a nice adjective.
Yeah, but the impact is big and it scales across millions of people or gigawatts of power saved.
What are some of the communities that you've impacted over the years?
one of the cooler ones is that I keep mentioning American Electric Power. They are a customer of ours. So they basically are a utility that stretches all the way from Ohio down to Texas, big vertical strip in the U.S. And so that's pretty cool. We've done work all over the U.S. We currently sit on something on the order of about 30 million smart meters worth of data. And so that's average 2.6 people per house. That's something in the 60 to 80 million people.
That's amazing.
That we can affect.
What do you see as like the next steps for GridCure and using all of this data for this positive impact?
Yeah, so next big steps for GridCure, something we've been pushing really hard on this year is a co-development strategy. Okay. That lots of utilities are trying to do something like this. They're hiring people with PhD in applied mathematics on their business card. And what we're finding is that while these utility internal folks might be coming up with some really cool analytical things, sometimes where there's not the capacity is to sort of finish that as a product. The user interface or the connectivity into other systems, or starting at the other end, making how they handle data or store data scale to something bigger than their laptop. So something we would love to do or continue doing is basically say, okay, cool, your really interesting model, utility expert, we're going to stick that at the core of the next application you build. And then we're going to do the rest of the product stuff.
Yeah.
Utility gets exactly what they want. It now scales nicely across their organization. We get a new saleable, scalable product with a existing customer testimonial.
That's insane. So would you ever consider like decentralizing this data or like having some sort of like open source project come out of it?
We would. There's obviously huge, crazy privacy and security concerns.
That's like the biggest thing. Right?
So, fun example there, we did some work in Eastern Europe where some of our contracts literally say in legal language, thou shalt not give our data to the Russians.
Okay.
Or you cannot have a controlling interest in your company from any citizen of the Russian Federation. Things like this.
Are any of these situations like hard to navigate? Like, how did you know what to do when it became like a privacy legal concern?
Always different. This is why we spend a lot of time with our lawyers. Basically, the jurisdictions are always tricky, and from a utilities perspective, this whole big data thing is very new. So there's a lot of cutting new trail in terms of how we can use data. Who ultimately owns what data?
Right.
So we've had to, basically define a bunch of new terms in our legal contracts. What is data? What is derived data? What this thing that the machine learning model discovered as an important feature? Who does that belong to? One of the fascinating ones that we would love to eventually be able to do more is if we have, let's say, 5 or 6 different utilities who are all adjacent to each other and we're working with all of them, we will know more about what's going on across all of those networks than any single one of them will. So said a different way, we might be able to help a regulator or a commission understand what's going on across literally the network or the state more than any individual utility could. And we think that there's applications there for sort of some national security stuff, some national level recommendations for equipment upgrades, stuff like that.
That's amazing. Now, going into like you as a person, Tagg, how did you kind of become an entrepreneur and like what is this like thing that drives you?
I think I became an entrepreneur because I learned pretty early on that having somebody tell me that I couldn't do something or I wasn't good enough to do something was a great way to encourage me to then do the thing as best I could.
Challenge accepted.
Sort of, yeah, the challenge accepted. And a lot of being an entrepreneur is, being told that, don't do that way. There's a reason this doesn't exist. Nobody's done it, therefore it can't be done. There's a lot of that adversity that, on a very personal level makes me excited to go and figure out, okay, well, let's actually do it then. Right.
Do you find that like your daily life as like, CEO, as an entrepreneur is also data driven like your business is? Or because you've mentioned in the past that you use spreadsheets in every aspect of your life.
Yeah. So many things I do are very data driven, and that comment was specific to I've got a bunch of life goals and rewards or treats to myself for hitting that particular goal.
Yeah.
So, for example, when I finally paid off my student loans, I was worth exactly $0, and
I'm still getting there.
It was a big day, and so my treat to myself is I got a magnet surgically implanted in my hand.
Pardon me?
So I can now feel electricity. If I put my hand near a large AC field, like an electric kettle or a microwave, if I pick up an extension cord, I can feel electricity. So I'm like magnetos.
Okay, which hand? I know that the audience can't see this.
So it's in this hand. It's a very small magnet. If you put your finger like that, you can kind of feel a little lump in there.
Okay, there's definitely a lump on the left ring finger.
And I had a toonie here a second ago, but I can pick up about a toonie's worth of weight with the magnet. And, there's kind of a philosophy piece behind it. I've always wanted to, explore, see, interact with more of the world around me. And this magnet lets me literally touch electricity, which is silently running the world around us.
So are you into body modifications? Why would you choose to put a magnet in your finger?
Big time. Big time. For my next company, I would love to be on the body mod side of the industry. I think that there's unbelievable opportunities for not just human augmentation of sort of bringing us up to existing capabilities, that we repair eyes, we repair ears and bones back to kind of human standard, let's call it. But we can go a little bit further. We can take what we've got and make it
enhance
stronger. Yeah. I mean, just in the past couple of years, we've seen people who run on racing blades. They're below the knee amputees. People running on racing blades, being able to run faster than kind of human standard on short distances.
Right.
And that's only happened the past couple of years. So I think that within the next generation, we're going to start seeing mechanical augmentation of humans, basically make us able to perform, see, perceive, act.
Why is this technology important to you personally?
This kind of gets into a personal philosophy piece thing, but imagine if tomorrow you went blind.
Okay.
Right? That would be a kind of pretty big adjustment for you, right? That going from 5 senses to 4 would be kind of abrupt. If that is intuitively abrupt, why aren't we as a species, let's say, more interested in going from 5 senses to 6? Taking the 5 that we've already got and making them stronger. So, and that's never quite made sense to me as to why we aren't culturally more interested in doing that. We see such a tiny little chunk of light. We hear such a narrow range of sound waves. Wouldn't it be cool to experience more?
That's incredible, because I've actually heard someone say the reason why we see the color gray is because we actually don't see all the colors in the spectrum. And that really threw me for a loop when I first heard that.
I would love to see into the ultraviolet so that I could see more colors on birds in particular. I would love to be able to hear subsonic so that we can listen to vocalizations from whales and things.
Can you also tell me about the importance of finding an impactful mission for a business? Like, when you're actually building a startup, why is it important to do this?
Yeah, I think especially in the early days, if there's not a mission, that you're not going to attract the right people. Having an important mission, doing something that's actually real and actually valuable in the world, that's the only thing that attracts people to you in the first place. So whether it's your idea or a collective idea, before you've got the money, before you've got the product, before you've got the product market fit, it's got to be important, and people have to recognize it's important and be willing to jump in that.
But also, it makes your problem fun to actually solve, and makes you more passionate about it. Because you can build a very cool thing, but if there's no impactful mission behind it, I find that it's hard to work on it.
Oh, sure. If you lose your passion in your project, you may as well just pack up shop. Then the mission should be important and should drive your passion.
What is your personal moonshot? What is the mission that you're really going after in your lifetime? I
would love to own and run the first lunar hotel. That's a world I want.
That's incredible.
We need to do a couple of cool technology things that don't exist yet to make that real. We've got to have an economic situation where it's feasible for somebody to go on vacation to the moon. And we've got to live in a world where there's kind of, let's call it political and societal alignment, that's a cool thing. Going into space, exploring more of the universe, that's a cool thing again. Not whatever this person said on Twitter today, but that's not what we focus on. We focus on exploration and science.
Right.
And if those 3 things are true, that's the world I want to live in. So,
And how are you taking steps every day to build that type of a world? How are you involved in those things?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Space as a personal interest is something that I in a silly way, I play games that involve building spaceships and attempting to explore these fake universes. More broadly, I think me fundamentally becoming a better business person is is how I can best be sort of driving those societal changes that I want to see.
Okay.
I think I'd be a very bad politician, but I think I could probably help out on the science side, and I can probably help out on maybe some of the technology side of making that a real thing.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for coming to this show and being a part of LaunchPod, because it's like a really great initiative for us to tell stories like yours and inspire more entrepreneurs to get involved with their communities and build a better Canada and future for everyone.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. And I'm really looking forward to listening to more of these.
And I'd love to know when you become a full cyborg.
There we go. Excellent.
Thanks for tuning into LaunchPod. Check back in often to hear from bold entrepreneurs paving the way for a more prosperous and competitive Canada. To learn more about our 500 entrepreneurs and the work they're doing to put Canada on the global stage, please visit nextcanada.com.